Hi, I'm Sarah with Your Story TV, and today I have the pleasure of being with the COO of the Startup Weekend, Stelle. Thank you for joining us today. So can you give us a little bit about your background and Startup Weekend and what's going on with that?
Okay, whole life story. So my background, it's in entrepreneurship. After college I went and worked in South Africa in low-income entrepreneurship for a while. And then I moved back to Seattle a couple years ago, and I got involved pretty randomly. Basically, I was looking to get into the kind of very early stage, kind of grassroots startup scene in Seattle, and I met Mark, who's the CEO and founder of Startup Weekend, and at the time it was just basically two guys in an apartment building eating ramen, no money.
That's no start.
Humble roots, and so I was basically, I went to one of the weekends, one of the early weekends in Seattle. I got pretty excited about it, so I just jumped on board. So there were three of us then. We moved into the basement of Techstars, which is a local incubator there, a startup incubator. And then a few months later, we got our first grant and started scaling and expanding around the world. And yeah.
So is this your first time to India?
Oh yeah.
So how has it been? How do you compare startups in India to the startups that you've seen in the United States and other places?
It's, this is 4 days, so I'll caveat it with that. But overall, I think the tech talent here is really strong from what I've seen so far, and people feel pretty confident about their general grasp of code and developing, and I feel like there's a fairly solid understanding of that. And from what I understand, India graduates more engineering majors than any other country in the world, and I think you can see that, and at the Startup Weekend you can see that. I think that design has a way to go here. I think that there's definitely a lack of design, which is a common theme around most places, except for some of the big tech hubs in the West and US and London.
What was your favorite part, would you say, of the Startup Weekend? Was there somebody that stood out or a speaker?
Favorite part? The favorite parts are always small moments when a certain team is struggling and kind of iterating and maybe spend too much time talking before they can actually get to a point where they're actually executing, and then they kind of hit that sweet spot, whether it's because a mentor finally kind of pushed them in the right direction, or they just kind of coalesced and got it right. So there were a couple teams that come mid-Saturday afternoon, we're still kind of floundering a little bit, as is normal. But then, they found the sweet spot, and one of them ended up winning. So, it's good.
So how many Startup Weekends have you guys done since you started back at humble beginnings? Where are you guys now?
So by the end of this year, we're hoping to hit our 1,000th mark.
Wow, congratulations.
Hoping, fingers crossed. This year, basically we've doubled our growth every year in the last 3 years. This year we're hoping to aim for 550 for the course of the year, over about 350 or so cities, 100 countries all around the world. Pretty much anywhere you are, there's going to be a Startup Weekend these days.
So are you the sole one traveling to all of these Startup Weekends?
Well, we average about 10 every weekend now, so that would be quite impossible. So how we do it is we have we curate our community, right? So we have a huge community of thousands of passionate organizers who are trying to get involved and basically trying to support their ecosystem. And aside from the organizers, we have facilitators, and these are people who have organized events and gotten even more into it, and just really kind of taken it upon themselves. And then we kind of, I guess you might say, promote, but it's more like we are blessed to allow them to become facilitators, where they then go and travel to other events around the world. So we might have someone who organizes an event in Delhi, and then gets more involved in everything, and then we put them through some training and all that, and then we'll send them out to wherever, Russia or something, to go facilitate that. And it's a cool way of cross-pollinating the communities and just building a really strong, connected network.
So you said you have a little bit of background in microfinance right out of college. What is your view on investors and funding in India?
It's pretty limited, to be honest. You know, I can only really tell you what I've heard in the last few days around investment in India. You know, as with a lot of places, I often feel that, you know, while if you ask entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, what the number one pain point is, they will say lack of investment. I tend to push back on that and disagree with that a little bit. Obviously it is important, but I know that there are some organizations here providing a little bit of a safety net. I know Microsoft has just started an accelerator, you know, where they're not even taking equity, and I mean, it's basically, yeah, a strong safety net for startups to be able to, you know, spend 4 months without really incurring too many expenses. So, you know, I always encourage startups to bootstrap, right? Because it's just, you know, if you're not finding product market fit within the first 4, 6, 1 year, unless you have a really cost-heavy startup, I think it's good that you're failing.
So what is Startup Weekend? So you're going to Delhi next. Is there any other plans to do any more Startup Weekends anytime soon, or what's the?
In India, so we have one in Delhi. I think there's going to be one in Hyderabad in November for our global entrepreneurship week. We're doing a big global battle thing. But yeah, I mean, you know, part of the reason I'm out here is because we're really looking to have a bigger impact in India. And part of that is just kind of getting a feel for the current startup ecosystem and where there might be gaps and where we can do both what we're doing now better and more in more different cities and kind of get to even smaller cities. But then also expand and do some other activities and partner and all that.
Has there been any idea or anything that's come out of Startup Weekend? I know there's probably several, but is there one that sticks out in your mind that makes this, all the traveling and all of this working and bootstrapping worth it for you?
Oh man, there've been so many cool ones. Most recently, right before I came here, I was in San Francisco for TechCrunch Disrupt, and I didn't even, you know, it was totally coincidental. I ran across Bevelverse, who was a company started at Startup Weekend in Athens, actually, which I like because, you know, the Greek economy, you know, it's nice to hear of success stories coming out of Greece right now. And they were started last year, and they're basically an app that does real-time translation for any kind of events or anything. So they basically have a curated network of people, you know, live people who, you know, basically go and say, you know, I speak this well, and they obviously have experts that can validate that, and then they basically can provide, you know, real-time translation up to X number, like 50 languages for your event. And I think it's a cool way of both encouraging people to learn more languages and all that, and obviously just anything that connects more people I like. So yeah, I mean, that's the most recent one.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a lot of really great stuff with Startup Weekend. Thank you so much, Your Story viewers. This is Adam Stelle again. He's the COO of Startup Weekend, and I'm Sarah with Your Story TV. Check out our next episode.